that make it laws. So it's like taking something that's really big and then breaking it down and making it bite-sized for everyone in the community, right? To be able to understand it in a very practical way. But what is really happening is the United Nations and all of these like really big, really lofty ideas, human rights, no discrimination, all of that stuff does not really come down to a practical level. So then you get in a situation where you're at work, the person who is hiring you is male or maybe even female, right? Because discrimination doesn't know any gender. Just like race doesn't know any gender, right? We see black officers that beat up black people. We see, Hispanic officers that beat up Hispanic people. It's irrational. The whole thing is irrational. But in the gender discrimination or gender biased arena, you have a boss that hires and is looking at a man and is looking at a woman, right? So the man has less qualifications. Not that you have less qualifications, but you know what I mean? You have less qualification than the woman that is really your equal. Or maybe even the woman is coming from a situation where she's been, in higher levels of management for 25 years and you just started. Well, because you're the man and because pretend I'm a man, because I'm a man that's hiring, then I decide to give you a higher salary. That's the kind of like irrational thinking that takes place. So the United Nations, with the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination, said across the board, let's look at it. In 1981, let's make sure that we are doing all that we can to eliminate gender bias, to eliminate all types of discrimination. And I think you're right. It's affecting women not only in the workplace, it affects them at home, but it starts with our basic thoughts. We have to think. What the analogy that you used was, if you have a fence and everybody is supposed to be able to jump over the fence, right? Yeah. So if you say, all is equal, if you have a really short person and that person can't jump, you can't say that the situation is equal. It's not equal. In order to make it equal, then you have to put a step there so now everyone can jump over at the same time. That is not what's happening. As a matter of fact, like no one's even thinking about putting a step there. Like they're saying, don't even make the stairs. You know what I mean? So there's no way that it can be equal. So I just wanted to throw that little tidbit in because that's the part that I think we have to look at when we're thinking about international women's right and International Women's Month, because it's not just the U.S. is dealing with this situation. We're dealing with it in every country. I'm sure every country of the world, and in some countries of the world, they are not thinking about women's rights. The women are saying, just give me a basic right where I can wear a hijab, you know what I mean? Or I don't have to wear a hijab, or I shouldn't be discriminated because I have to wear. I think it's one of the hottest, if there's like a hot women's issue right now, that's it. Wearing of the hijab and not being discriminated against because of it. There's some other women's rights issues that I think have evolved around clothing, shoes, and things like that, and how women, are labeled because of it. But that's one of the issues that I think is important right now in international women's rights. But there's another one that, and I don't know that we've touched upon this or even thought about it, but it's sex trafficking. That to me, and I could be wrong, seems to me like predominantly women, and it's also very young boys, are being brought into this country, or even sometimes are already in this country and the children are stolen, and they put them into the sex trafficking arena, and they rape them, they use them, they put them in prostitution, the girls are getting pregnant. I mean, it's an epidemic and it's out of control. But when I think about it, I'm like, okay, I'm riding down the streets and I see these strip joints, right? And is that what they're called? I think they're called the strip clubs. And someone was actually in the office and they were talking about it, and it really opened my eyes to it. I really saw it as a male issue. I saw it as a male issue because I'm not sure that women go into these clubs. I don't know, but somebody was telling me like some women do. So I don't know, but that's a whole nother issue. But one of the things that happens is they were saying, well, this is just kind of an interesting fact, but this whole make it rain, you've heard of that make it rain. They were saying that there are like hundreds of $100 bills in these machines that are called rain machines, and they just spit out the money, and then the woman is supposed to do these sexual dances, whatever, and they get paid a lot of money. Well, from one point of view, and unfortunately this has touched my family, the woman has a job, right? So if she has a child, or even if she doesn't have a child and she needs to take care of herself, making it rain is making it rain. I mean, I wish I had me like $100 bill machine over here that was spitting out money, like, so they could go home with a lot of money, but they're being exploited. But then when you take and put children into that mix and whatever's going on behind closed doors, which is kind of hard for me to imagine. I don't know if that's really how it goes down. It just this whole trafficking thing, it makes me very, very angry. And I think it's because of male sexual appetite. There, I put it out there in a way that everybody can relate to. That's what I think is happening. And I think at the bottom of everything that we talk about with gender discrimination, that might be it. It might be something that has to do with sex, right? It's sexual. How can I exploit? And I don't think sex always has to be exploitive, or it shouldn't ever in a real way when there's like husband and wife, or however people are thinking about it. I don't think it has to be exploitive at all. But something else happened. I was at the gym and I was just on the machine, and two men who were beside me started having this conversation, and the conversation went kind of like this. Yeah, we were out on a date, and I told her she had to give up half of her money for the bill. Yeah, well, that's really how it ought to be. In old times, that's not really how it was. And men, I don't know why they were paying for women. So I'm just listening to this whole conversation, and I'm thinking, what is this like in a boardroom? Take that same conversation that's not just going out for lunch, but it goes up to a boardroom. Then the conversation has to go something like this. Oh, she's female. She shouldn't be paid as much. Or don't even let her sit on the board. I mean, that has to be the same conversation, right? That I was just privy to, because maybe they thought I was just exercising and not listening. I don't know what they thought. Actually, I don't think they were thinking at all. I think they were just their thoughts coming out raw, kind of like the footage of President Trump, when this is before he was president, when he was running, he was on the bus, and then he was just like, oh yeah, I grabbed this and they love me or whatever. I mean, that's only one of the stupid things that he said, but I think it's just speaking. But we learn, like, from the Bible, like, when you speak, it's what comes out of your heart. If it's not really in you and it's not a part of what you do, it doesn't come out like that. Once you have a period of time to think about it, just like President Trump, then he says something different, right? And realizes, darn, I wish I could take that back. But you can't take it back because it's in your heart. So if you're born in societies or families where this, it's an issue that you don't treat women with the type of respect, or women don't treat themselves with the type of respect, then as a man or as a woman, then you tend to look at gender and believe this is a sex that does not have to be treated the same and should not be treated the same, and therefore you can discriminate. So just getting back to basics.